Inspiring interviews with today's top landlords. This is the Rental Income Podcast. And now, Dan Lane.
David and Rachel, tell me what your rentals have done for you.
So our rentals have given us the ability to leave our previous jobs. We have the freedom to travel. We've been able to do a lot of traveling over the past 8 years since we reached that spot where we let go of our other jobs. And really just given us the freedom to just have time, to be there for family, to be there for friends. There's a lot of flexibility.
And how many rentals do you guys own?
So currently we have 25 rentals, and that's a mix of single family, multifamily, but just one triplex. We have several duplexes, and then we have a commercial building as well.
David and Rachel didn't come from money. They didn't start out with a bunch of money. They're just normal, everyday, hardworking people that saved their money and started buying rental properties and eventually got to the point where their rental income replaced their W-2 income. And on the podcast today, we're going to walk through their story and figure out how they did it. Joining us on the podcast today from Jackson, Mississippi, are David and Rachel Sugg. We'll take a quick break to thank our sponsors. We'll come right back and we'll talk to David and Rachel. It's a lot of work to find a really good rental property. And when you actually find that property, you want to make sure you're working with a lender that can get that loan closed. The lender that I recommend is Chaley Ridge from Ridge Lending Group. She's a nationwide lender, and her specialty is helping investors finance rental properties. She has a ton of loan programs, and she can find something customized to you for your situation. If you want to find out more or you're ready to get started today, just go to ridgelendinggroup.com. That's RIDGE lendinggroup.com, NMLS 42056. Are you thinking about investing in rental properties, but maybe you don't know where to start? My friends at Mid-South Home Buyers make it simple. For over 23 years, they've been selling fully renovated turnkey rental properties in Memphis and Little Rock. We're talking new roofs, plumbing, electric, kitchens, bathrooms. Everything is brand new and done right. And here's the best part. Every property comes with a well-qualified tenant in place before you close. That means you get cash flow from day one. Plus, Mid-South continues to professionally manage the property for you after the sale, and they back it up with 2 powerful guarantees. You get a 1-year total maintenance warranty and a lifetime occupancy guarantee. Personally, I've bought 5 properties from them, and I couldn't be happier. If you want to talk to someone that's been through the process, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions, or if you're ready to get started, just go to midsouthhomebuyers.com. That's midsouthhomebuyers.com. I mean, you guys have a real incredible story. And what I love about it is that 25 rentals isn't a huge portfolio. Was it really hard to get to where you guys are today?
It has been work. We've had to really put everything into it. But early on, we realized that we wanted to have properties that we could put to higher and better use, meaning much higher cash flow than a traditional rental. So we really just started focusing on that, and the different things we could do to not necessarily build a huge portfolio, but just to have more cash flow.
Right. So tell me more about what you guys are doing. Tell me how you're finding properties and increasing the cash flow.
Primarily getting properties through our network. We do direct mail sometimes. We've done some Facebook ads. We'll do some door knocking. But most of our deal flow comes from our local community. They know we close. They know what we're looking for, and so they send us deals that might be a good fit, and we try to take them down if the numbers make sense. As far as increasing cash flow, shared housing or group housing or temporary housing is typically double the cash flow that we would get on a long-term rental. And so we'll furnish something and we'll put either on the Airbnb platform or a traveling nurse platform or our sober living business and double or triple cash flow that way.
Now, when you guys started buying rental properties, did you have a lot of money saved up?
No.
No, we had zero, really. I mean, we were living on very little. I mean, we were making enough money to support, our own expenses, but no, we started with little to nothing. I mean, we had some credit and basically used that credit to start, doing some marketing and getting some deal flow. And then we also used that credit to get involved in mainly one group of real estate investors that was started here locally, but it's nationwide. So we went on a cruise and we didn't really have any money to do it, but we did. And doing that was probably one of the best decisions we ever made, because it really kind of opened our eyes to the possibilities, and we made a lot of connections. And, on the first cruise, I believe we met the lender that has now primarily lent most of our money to us. And that took a few years of building that relationship. It wasn't immediate, but,
Right.
So yeah, we didn't have much.
And you're self-managing everything today?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we've kind of built out our own management. It's not just us doing it. We have a full-time employee, and he handles maintenance and a lot of the management part of it. And then we also have a lady that helps us with the group housing on the women's side of things. So it's not just us today. For a while it was us, but we've as we've grown, we realized we had to have help. So.
Now, looking back on it, do you feel like you had to make a lot of sacrifices to get to where you are today?
Me personally, no. I mean, my backstory, coming from a life of addiction, living on the streets and near-death experiences, this was actually a really, it was a come up. So no, it was, to other people, there were tremendous sacrifices, but house hacking or, renting out rooms, for me, no, it wasn't that big of a deal. But some people just can't imagine doing that.
Yeah. So you guys house hacked in the past. Was that kind of when you were getting started?
Yeah. So I read a book. What is it? The Richest Man in Babylon. And he's got one of his things is, make your house a source of income. That's just always been one of my guiding principles. Even before I really fell in love with real estate investing, was like, how am I going to make this thing pay for itself?
Right.
I mean, because I know as we underwrite tenants, we know that they're supposed to spend a third of their income towards housing. And I'm like, man, if I figure out how to get my housing paid for, I'm doing better than 90% of the population.
Right.
So that's always been a goal of mine.
Do you guys still house hack today?
We do. So early on when we first got started, David purchased the house we live in, and there's an attached apartment behind it. And we lived in the back apartment. We fixed it up. It's an efficiency, very small. We lived in that apartment and rented out the main house for about a year when we decided we were going to do this full time. So we did that for the first year. And then, as we grew, we ended up moving into the main house on our own and rented out. Now the back apartment is an income producing apartment that consistently is rented for $1,600 a month, which pays for our living expenses. Right. We're in Mississippi, and the living expenses are definitely a lot lower than some areas. So, but yes.
Would you say that's one of the keys, that not having to pay rent or a mortgage, getting that covered by the house hack? Do you think that was kind of a shortcut to get to where you are today?
I don't even know if it was a shortcut or the only way.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't going to go traditional. There was I wasn't going to get a bank loan. Didn't have people throwing money at me. I mean, it was the way.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would say it was a sacrifice, I guess, earlier on, but now we just look at it like, wow, we've thought about moving several times, and we're just thinking like, why would we do that?
Right.
Like doing these things has afforded us to be able to go travel and do the things we really want to do, and not be tied to this huge mortgage and those expenses.
And not be other people have different tools at their disposal, whether it's a high paying job or wealthy parents or inheritance. And that's just not our story. And so taking what God's given us and saying, all right, what can we make out of this? And like she said, the highest and best use we have out of any project or any opportunity. And that's one of our guiding principles is what has he handed us and what can we do with it? And stop saying, well, if I had this instead. So just taking what he's given us and making the most out of it.
Well, let's kind of walk through how you did it. So how did you get started? What was your first property?
First property I bought was a burned up house in a Class C neighborhood, like right on the edge of this little restaurant village in Jackson, Mississippi. So there's some restaurants and some cool tourism stuff happening about 2 blocks away from this kind of Class C area. And it was right in the middle of the Great Recession. It was 2013. House prices were super depressed, and there was an investor that needed to get rid of something or the city was going to tear it down. And I bought it on a day that I don't even think I had money for closing costs. He just wanted it off his books. And I was going to pay him $300 a month for 6 years. And I paid it off in about 18 months through house hacking. I fixed up rooms and rented out to guys that I was working with in the restaurants or I knew from my 12-step work.
And this is before you guys were married?
This is before we were married and before I was really even thinking about real estate investing. This was just, I needed a place to live and God was handing me something and I was trying to make the most of it. Yeah,
so that's pretty awesome. Like you bought your first property. You really didn't have a plan. It sounds like at that point, you just thought, this makes sense.
Right.
All right. So then you get that property. You're house hacking. You're living free. And then when did the light bulb go off that, well, if this is making money, maybe I can buy more and make even more money?
You see what? There was a company in town that was selling tax delinquent properties. They would buy properties at tax sale and they'd turn around and sell them to entrepreneurial fixer-uppers like me, and they'd finance them. And once more, super depressed. I bought 3 houses just because people were asking me, "Do you have any more houses for rent in the same neighborhood?" So I bought a couple more. And at that point, I started running into trouble like title issues or insurance issues, or how do you create a lease?
And then. So you were at a total of 4 properties at this point?
Mm-hmm.
And then, Rachel, when did you get involved?
So I got involved at that point. So David had purchased 4 properties. We met, we were dating, and then he started talking to me about this real estate stuff. And at first I was thinking, oh, no, I just thought there's just no way. Like, I don't know. It was just so foreign to me.
Yeah.
But the more we talked about it and the more I got involved and really started seeing the numbers and what was happening, it was just like, wow, this is, we could do something with this. Right. And David at that point really started focusing on wholesaling and getting interested in that and researching that. So we were literally in my apartment at the time and making handmade signs, to go hang around the area. And we did that. And lo and behold, within, I don't know, a couple of weeks, 30 days, David got a call, got a house under contract, turned around and wholesaled it and made, I don't know, it was a $20,000 or $30,000 wholesale fee. And it was like, wow, okay, this works. Yeah. And then honestly, from then on, we really just both kind of went all in and went on this cruise, met a bunch of investors, started hearing about short-term rentals, and just started slowly amping up what we were doing. And 2017 is really when we started kind of really 100% in, bought several properties every year. And we're just kind of we were growing pretty fast.
And were you still buying the same types of properties, the C-class properties that needed a bunch of work?
It's changed a little bit. We're very particular about the areas we buy in. So, I like to buy the worst house in the best area. Rachel and I are focused in this little Fondren area of Jackson. There's restaurants, there's cool old houses. A lot of people want to be here. So I try to find, in that area, the most beat horse there is kind of thing. But a lot of other cash flow investors kind of look in some other Class C or D areas, and we stay out of those hardcore areas.
Yeah, up to this point, we actually have sold off some of the first ones that David bought. We eventually started selling those just because, we're not going to buy, for example, we decided we're not going to buy a property that I'm not comfortable going to by myself, and there are some areas in Jackson that yeah, I don't, I'm not going to go.
Right.
So, we did kind of change our standards. And then we started realizing, we get a much better quality tenant when we have better quality properties and better neighborhoods. And it makes the management of it a lot easier.
So today you have some single family properties that you rent out long term. And then it sounds like you also have some sober living houses.
Right. So we at this point I think we have maybe 6 that are long term, just standard rentals, and then we have 9 properties that are all the group housing, sober living, and those are houses where we have 2 beds per room, $600 a month per bed. And most of our houses are standard 3-2s. We have one that's a 5-bedroom, which is great because, we can have 10 people in there and it's zoned to where we can have 10 people living there. But all of, like David was saying, most of our properties are in this one area of Jackson that works for the sober living and then also works for the short-term rentals because we have a med school that is literally less than a mile from all of our properties. And that brings in people from all over that need short-term furnished housing that are coming in to work at the med school to do a rotation or, different things in that field. So yeah, short-term rentals and sober living are the 2 main sources of income at this point.
And the sober living, this is someone that's maybe gotten out of rehab, they're rebuilding their life and they just need a place to live as they're getting back on their feet again.
Yes.
Yeah, so $600 a bed, and you have 2 beds in each room. And in some of the properties, you have it's a 5-bedroom house. So you've 10 people paying $600 a month for the house.
Right.
That's really awesome. And then is there like a house manager? I mean, with that many people, it just sounds like there's potential for problems. Have you had many problems with just different personalities?
I mean, we've had some, but it's not what you would think. Because I was nervous getting into it. I just wasn't sure, what we were going to be dealing with. And the longer we've done it, honestly, we found that it has been gotten much easier as time has gone on because, we have people that have been in the houses since we opened them. They don't want to leave. And when we have people that are there for a long term, they basically run the houses for us. They have some experience, they're doing well, and they keep an eye on stuff and let us know what's going on. But then, like I said, we have help. It's not David and I getting all the phone calls.
Right.
We have a male and female that help with both sides of that.
And do you have a connection with like a rehab center that's feeding people to you as you have turnovers?
Yeah, we have several. And that's part of our business to business development is we reach out to these different treatment centers and let them know if we've got beds or let them know if a nonprofit's giving us a scholarship and we're looking for people that don't have a way to pay. But yeah, we're constantly reaching out to about 7 different treatment centers and maintaining communications with them, let them know what we're doing.
Yeah, that's an interesting niche. So how many sober living houses do you have?
So we have 9.
Nine sober living.
Right.
Okay. And then you also have some other short-term properties?
So we have 9, well, actually 10 short-term rentals. And then, and those are all 1 and 2 bedroom furnished places. Most of the short-term rentals are duplexes. So both units are used as short-term rentals. And then, so the 9 sober living, and that's a total of 60 beds. So we have 30 beds for men and 30 beds for women.
So that really seems to be the secret sauce for what you guys have done is you've found properties and found ways to just make incredible cash flow out of it.
Yes. That's what we've had to do. I mean, we wanted to pretty quickly get to a spot of financial freedom, because we had things that we want to go do,
right.
And so that was really the goal is just to, when we buy a property, we look at it as, what box does this fit in, and what is this going to do for us cash flow wise on a monthly basis, and what does it require to get it to that point.
What a great business. 60 beds paying $600 a month. That's $36,000 a month just from the sober living, plus their traditional rentals and the Airbnbs. And remember, David and Rachel are also house hacking. So I mean, what an incredible business, and very well done. Well, if anybody wants to reach out to David and Rachel, I've got their contact information on the website. You can find it at rentalincomepodcast.com/episode 528. I'd like to thank Chaley Ridge from Ridge Lending Group for sponsoring today's episode. If you're looking to buy a rental property, whether you're just getting started or you want to add to your portfolio, reach out to Chaley. She's a nationwide lender. She has a ton of loan programs, and she can find something that works for you. If you want to find out more, just go to ridgelendinggroup.com, NMLS 42056. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast today. Make sure you hit the follow button. I put out a new episode every single Tuesday, and if you're following the show, you'll get notified when the next episode comes out. My name is Dan Lane, and this has been the Rental Income Podcast.